It's time for Reason.
They're delusional. The blinders are on. I don't know if it's the higher education. I don't know whether it's the Common Core education. I don't know whether it's just been brainwashing for years and years and years. But when you lay out blatant facts to them, they refuse to listen. They refuse to acknowledge. There's so much opportunity to where if we just at least had a discussion and they opened their ears for a slight minute, then maybe they'd have a different perspective.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Oh, you finally made it, my friends. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. Simulcasting on TV as well, KGPT TV, channel 2610. Good morning. Welcome aboard. It's great to have you along today on a Friday. Yes, let's make it a free-for-all Friday. Come on. This is our favorite day of the week. This is the time where you get to decide the discussion, you get to decide the topic, you get to vent, and I get to hang out and just enjoy. What do you say? Come on.
Baby, just come on.
316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in the rest of the week, I set the tone, I set the topics. We discuss what I feel is important. Today, that all changes. Today, you run the show. You talk about whatever you want to. It could be football. It could be politics. It could be, I don't know, masculinity, because apparently we all need to work on that a little bit. But you set the tone right here on the show today. Welcome in 316-721-8255. We do have the Facebook Live feed that is up and rolling as well. Today's social media active, at least for the moment, while we try and allow our social media message to get across and try and reach out. The never-ending story of us openly trying to extend that branch, that olive branch, to the progressives on a daily basis. Whether they accept it or not, you can lead the horse to the trough, but you can't make them eat. You can lead them to knowledge, but you can't make them understand it. You yourself have done all you can. That's what we try and do every single day. We are more accessible than any other talk show. We are more accessible on social media than anyone else, really, because unlike other shows, we put all 3 hours for free on a podcast, on our websites, on our online streaming, on our social media, and anybody can listen to this whether they like me or hate me. It does not matter. Or whether they like and hate you, because, well, you know, what I say usually, for the most part, most people like. Maybe, I don't know, others may disagree with it, but that's okay. Welcome in. Speaking of, I haven't talked about this lately because we just haven't had a chance. It started last week, and it was during election time, and to me, the election time was way more important, but social media seems to be getting a little bit more, if you've noticed, the whole shadow banning thing with conservative messages on social media. As you know, Alex Jones getting banned from Twitter, not from Twitter, but from Facebook and from all the other outlets, even YouTube. All the videos that he's created, all gone. Now, whether you like Alex Jones, whether you don't like Alex Jones, doesn't matter one way, shape, or form. The internet, in my opinion, is supposed to be kind of that wild, wild west, to where there's not very much regulation. You can put anything on there that you want to. If you want to find the 10 people around the world that wants to parade around in stormtrooper cloaks, speaking Greek or speaking Latin, then you're going to find those people. If you want to find the 10 people in the world that still play, some type of archaic game or play Dungeons and Dragons while you're wearing a jumpsuit, you can find those people. The interweb is supposed to be that place where anything goes. Anything, you can post anything. You can be a nut. You can be a conspiracy theorist. You can be a mainstream. You can be whatever. And then it's up to you as the viewer, as the consumer, to decipher on whether you agree with something that's on there, whether you disagree with something, whether you actually do your research and actually you verify what's being said on there. I mean, somebody can go on there and make a blog and say that, you know what, the world is totally not as it seems. We're actually living in somebody's dream, and one of those days it's going to wake up and poof, all of us will be gone, and that's the end of the world. And someone will have some type of research or theory on that on their blog as they're typing it in their parents' basement, and they're allowed to upload that onto the interweb. And if you read that, then you can be like, oh, that makes total sense. Or you can come back and say, okay, that's a loon, next. But that's up to you. Now we're seeing different companies begin to ban, begin to censor, begin to shadow ban different messages because they don't like those messages on the interweb for people to view, for the access. The internet is supposed to be access to stuff. It's just open. There you go. Have at it. Do your thing. There are way smarter people about the internet than I am, and they go into the dark web where they can go around and they can have communications, they can surveil people, and they're like the government where they can track different things. And the whole government tracking thing's a whole nother discussion. We can talk about that a little bit later. I saw a story about how Google did come out and admit that they're tracking everybody if you have like Gmail on your phone or you have an internet browser open on your phone while you're driving or while you're traveling or your spouse is sitting next to your friend and they have their phone up. They're tracking you all the time and they openly admit it. I actually went on one time to my Gmail or my Google on my phone and it actually showed the travel that I do on a daily basis from home to work and then back and then the couple stops I made at like the grocery store that week. It showed me the path. I've seen it. They admit now that they're tracking people. And if they're able to track you, they're able to either open up the portal in the access into the other realm for people to view what you want to do or not. Have you been shadow banned? Have you had issues with social media? And is this right? First off, and we've had this discussion a little bit before as well, but I do not believe that the internet is a public utility. I do not think that it's supposed to be guaranteed to everybody as a public utility. I do not believe the government should be regulating the internet as a public utility because it's not. If you don't have internet, you're not going to die. It is not a service that's supposed to be guaranteed to you in order for you to have it. If they consider it a public utility, that means that you would be paying into the government in order to access it, that you'd be paying the taxes and the fees in order to maintain it, and then when something goes wrong, it would be the government or a department in the government at the local level to come out and service it for you. That's not the way this is. To me, the internet is nothing more than a private market, a private industry product that you openly choose that you want to purchase. And a private company will come out and service that for you, which means, by the way, the customer service is going to be way better and the quality of the product is going to be way better. But the government should not be involved in that as a public utility. I don't see it that way. And because it's a private market thing, it's supposed to be left for the consumers in a private market manner. That, to me, is how I feel that the internet should be. And now social media platforms, some say, well, Andy, if it's a private market industry and it's a private market company and it's a private market business like Facebook or like Twitter, it's a private business and they can silence or screen or ban anybody that they want to on their platform because they own the platform. And it's a great point. But my response is right now that it's not. It should be a free market thing. It's not. The government has their greedy hands in the internet too terribly much. The government has their control over the internet way too much. And the big corporations that, I don't want to put on the conspiracy theory hats here, but it's true. The big companies, big tech, if whatever they call them, like Facebook, like Twitter, like these social media platforms, work too closely with the government to where they control a monopoly on social media platforms. Try and find a smaller platform like Mayway and see how many users are actually on it. Because they limit the amount of exposure that one gets. They limit it. They own the domains. They own the IP address. They own the large market share of these types of industries, and they really silence any other competitors in the market. What's the one purpose, one of the one purposes that the federal government's actually supposed to have? It's supposed to limit and stop monopolies. But yet we have monopolies in many industries, thanks to the government. And the quote-unquote big tech, if that's what you want to call it, I don't like conspiracy theories much. I love enjoying listening to them. I don't necessarily always hold them up as fact, but the quote-unquote big tech controls the majority of internet access. For example, if you're a business and you advertise on Google, to where someone types in the name or something close to your name or types in, I need this type of product. And if you pay Google for advertisement, then your name should be popping up towards the top there, right? And that's how it works. You pay Google They put you at the top towards the Google search when someone searches that industry or that product or your business or something that's related to your name in that business. And then you pop up to the top so that way it's accessible and the consumer can see you and then they click on you and then it works all around. They use Google services. The Google got their funding from you for advertising and then you got the business because your name actually popped up. That's the way it's supposed to work. Now let's take it into a conservative mindset with a conservative outlet. Whether it's a website, whether it's a blog, whether it's a site, whether it's a video, whether it's a media source, regardless of whatever it is, you pay Google, you register your name, you register your business's name, you register whatever, you put it on there. They say, nope, you know what? We're not going to We're not going to actually put you up there because we don't like your message, so we're going to shadow ban you. So when someone Googles a certain topic, your name doesn't come up to the top because you have information on that. You've written a blog on it. You have a video on it. You have a name for that. You have whatever. They search, and even though you pay Google, even though you're advertising with them, even though that they're supposed to track how many hits that you get based on the links of people pushing the link to your site, you're at the bottom. You're 3 pages down because the liberal source is up at the top. Is that fair? No, it's not fair. That's why we have a problem with this. Because it may be private businesses, quote unquote, but it's not really private businesses. And this is the beginning. When something like this is why it's troubling to me. Being in the media myself, being a conservative talk show myself, yes, I am a little concerned about this. How far is it going to go? Will they start reaching TV? Will they start reaching radio? Will they start reaching more on online social media? I have hundreds of people. I haven't quite hit the 1,000 mark yet on my Facebook page. I haven't really plugged it or moved or done anything with it. But I'm close to hitting the 1,000 mark of people liking the Voice of Reason Facebook page. If the Facebook page is shadow banned, how are people supposed to access it, supposed to see it? And when I post things, are you really seeing it on your newsfeed? That's a problem to me. Now, where do I go? I can go to other sources, but the individuals that are on Facebook may not see it because they're not on those other sources. That's a problem to me. It is very concerning. If you're a child and you're doing homework projects, and you're doing research on a history exam, and you're looking at maybe World War II, and you're looking at Hitler, and you're looking at the Third Reich, and you're looking at Nazis, and you're trying to research this, and you go and search these things, what's it going to pop up with in the mainstream media or on Google when you search it? It's not going to come up with, oh yeah, the Third Reich, Hitler, he was a National Socialist. He was big government. He was the government taking over private industry. He was guaranteeing jobs to people. He was giving the social safety net to the nation. He was trying to expand to be able to cleanse the nation from certain individuals. That's big government stuff. That's the collective thought. That's the this. That. And then you can be smart enough to put things together and say, hey, you know what? There's an idea like that right now called progressivism that loves the collective thought, that loves the groupthink mentality, that loves to control business and industry and manufacturing through the government, that loves to be able to create the safety net, that wants to guarantee jobs to individuals, that wants to raise the minimum wage. This sounds vaguely familiar. But you don't see that right now, do you? You do the research, and then it comes up and it says, oh, look at that. Yeah, fascism, right-wing philosophies. What did they do a few months ago where they labeled the California Republican Party as an ideological branch or a party of a fascist branch? Remember that? You search Google and you search the California Republican Party and it came up with ideologies, fascism and Nazism. What? Is that true? No, it's not true, but thanks to Google that was, because any kid doing their research project found that, saw that, and now it's stuck in their brains because that's what they associate it with. We have problems. We have issues. And I don't like seeing Alex Jones go anywhere. Not that am I the biggest fan of Alex Jones? I like him. I think he's entertaining. I agree with a lot of what he says. I disagree with some things he says. That's all right. But at the same time, it doesn't matter whether I like him or dislike him or agree or disagree with him. It doesn't matter what you do. He has the right to say that and to silence him, to try and shut him down, to try and go after him is only the step towards everybody else. How many people are openly going to stand up and say, I'm going to defend Alex Jones? They see that as the first step. Next, it's going to be the local shows. Next, it's going to be Rush Limbaugh. Next, it's going to be Joe Pags. Next, it's going to be everyone else that disagrees with the status quo. There was that study, if you remember, that if you are against if you actually try and question authority, and you actually try and question the status quo, then you probably have some sort of mental disorder. It's a very troubling world to be in. But happy Friday. 316-721-8255. The lines are lighting up. Stay here. We'll get to you as soon as we come back. Got to take a break, and we'll get to you right away. 22 minutes past the hour. It is a free-for-all Friday. Kind of an interesting topic to start off the morning today on a Friday here on The Voice of Reason. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason on the Mid-America Network.
26 minutes past the hour. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. Happy Friday to you. I know I got you all riled up on a Friday morning. Now let's have a little fun. What do you say? 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. Here's, again, my thought is, just let everybody kind of do their thing on the interweb. It's just a free-for-all. It's a free-for-all Friday. Make it a free-for-all internet. Why not? Let's go to the phones. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name? Hello.
Hello.
Hey, good morning, sir. How are you?
I am fine. I have 2 comments.
Okay.
First comment is that yesterday you did not have any audio on your TV. Okay.
Okay. That's good to know.
And as of a few minutes ago, you did not have any audio on your TV either. So 2 days in a row.
Let's make sure we're still everything. Well, all right. We'll have to pass that along to the powers that be. Looks like we have audio coming through on this end, so I appreciate the info. We'll pass that along.
Yes. And as far as Alex Jones,
yes.
Now, okay, as an old man, okay, look at Alex Jones. Okay, so he's a little bit over this way and he's a little bit over that way. But if you look at the internet, Andy, the absolute filth that's on the internet, and you don't like Alex Jones? I mean, do you realize what kind of filth is out there that you can just pull up and it's not even banned?
Sure. Oh, yeah, exactly. And that's the odd thing. I mean, Alex Jones, whether you like him or dislike him, the fact that people want to ban Alex Jones as opposed to some of the other ridiculous things that you can find on the interweb, and that's the controversial thing that we need to be concerned about, right?
There's stories about girls selling their virginity at 14 years of age on there that's just in plain sight on the internet, and they're worried about Alex Jones. How ridiculous is this world going to be,
That's the issue. And again, I mean, it's the conservative messages that are being banned. It starts with Alex Jones. It goes to more quote-unquote mainstream sources, a mainstream talk show hosts or mainstream messages. I mean, it could be The Blaze from Glenn Beck, which I'm not a fan of Glenn Beck, but, his media source is decent getting some information out there to a degree. It could be Rush Limbaugh. It could be even Fox News at some point, foxnews.com. Sorry, you're not going to have a website any longer. So even if you report breaking news stories and everybody's looking at stuff not on TV or not on radio anymore, but it's going to be on the web, everybody's looking for it, they're not going to find your link. They're going to find MSNBC's link, and they're going to find CNN's link because they report it a lot better and it's more fair that way, right?
It's
it's a concerning thing. And someone like myself being in media, I'm a little concerned about it. I mean, how is that going to affect my career going down the road sort of thing? But it's a bigger picture than that of just the basic information that we're supposed to have and have access to. Let's hear about the differing opinions between how CNN reported on a story and how Fox News reported on a story, or even how MSNBC reports on a story and Alex Jones reports on a story. There's a big difference between there, but let's see it. No, I got to silence that stuff. And you're right. I mean, there's more ridiculous things on the internet to be concerned about, but, Alex Jones and those conservatives, we'll continue this when we come back. Appreciate the call very much, Eddie. Have a great weekend. Bottom of the hour news coming up. Stay here.
Never shies away from a fight.
Just you try it.
Oh, I'll try it.
Just you try it.
You'll feel it when I try it.
I'd like to see you have at it.
Would you now?
And now's your chance to jump in the ring.
Are you insane?
Give Andy a call at 316-721-8255. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
It is really encouraging when we go through these arguments about silencing, about censoring, about monitoring, about shutting down, about shadow banning or banning altogether. and the internet part of that. And we see someone like Alex Jones that gets under attack. And then, of course, it's going to go down the list to everybody else. And they've openly said they want to go after everybody else because it's all about hate speech and trying to get rid of hate speech. And they've defined what hate speech is. So anybody that disagrees with them, that's not lovey-dovey and thinks in the groupthink mentality and thinks in the the different collective thought mentality, anybody that doesn't believe in that, then, of course, is part of hate speech. And therefore, you need to be banned. I mean, listen to Antifa, listen to these other organizations that they define what racism. Donald Trump is a racist, and if you say otherwise, then you are part of the racist movement as well. Wait a second, what has he said that's racist? It's just obvious. Hello. And you should just know that he's racist, and that's it, because everybody knows that. And therefore, he is hate speech, and therefore it is justified in order for us to openly attack him, verbally attack him, try and remove him from office, try and silence him and every one of his supporters, because he is hate speech. And you just have to accept, because that's just the way it is. There's no more discussion. But what is encouraging is that, here's a little inside baseball for you. When you're in radio, there's the networks that actually broadcast your show. I don't necessarily have a network because I'm not a syndicated show, but we have Cycling Communications here locally in the KQAM radio station. But as a syndicated show, you have the networks that actually broadcast your show down the satellite receivers, and then the local affiliates like KQAM will pick up a show and broadcast it in that sense. And, like Joe Pags is through a network, and Mike Gallagher, if you remember him, he always talks about the Salem Radio Network that started off, by the way, as a Christian network, still has their Christian branch of it, and then branched off into talk radio as well. And then they have their news and everything else. But each network goes and broadcast the show. Now, with a controversial host like Alex Jones, then you have, obviously being a controversial one, you'd always think, would the network ever pull the show? And I've talked with InfoWars Group and Alex Jones's people, just because, being an affiliate, we can reach out and just be like, hey, is everything good? Do we need to worry about a time slot that we need to fill on the airwaves? Because there's not going to be any more Alex Jones show. And we ended up getting an email yesterday, or actually this morning. I got it this morning, came in late last night, from the network that broadcasts Alex Jones's radio program, Genesis Communication Network. And they sent it out to all the affiliates, and it gives the name of the representative and everything, which I'm not going to give that stuff out, but it says a handful of individuals have reached out recently concerned about the status of the Alex Jones Show and the Genesis Communication Network platform, and I'd like to take a minute to assure each of you that GCN has no intention of dropping the Alex Jones Show. This is an unfounded rumor being spread by competitors, activists, and others. The Alex Jones Show has always been controversial, and his broadcast is in large part responsible for the success and growth of GCN over the years. Recent attempts by social media to censor Alex have served only to make him cool and edgy. Alex comes from an underground, so attempts to send him back succeed only in immersing him deeper into his element where he thrives, which is true. I mean, you push someone against the wall and they're already used to being cornered. They know how to respond to it. But Alex Jones is number 25 in the most listened to talk shows on radio in the entire nation through the Genesis Communication Network. And I give them big props and big respect for them defending him and saying, yeah, you know what, we're not going to drop his show. He may be controversial. Oh, well, we've had growth because of him. He has growth because of us. We've had a great partnership. We're not going to go anywhere. And that's really good to hear. And so as they talk about trying to ban him from social media, try and ban him from the internet. I know his website went down for a couple of days. I don't know if it still is or not, but I know a lot of things have been happening in that sense. Even his pirate radio station that he has down in Austin, Texas area, they've shut that down completely. And but he's not going to go anywhere, at least on radio and at least on TV, because they're not going to go anywhere. The networks are still saying, yeah, you know what, we're still going to keep him regardless of this, because it's only making him more popular. I mean, imagine, they always say no publicity is bad publicity, and it's very true, especially in the media. If I said something crazy outlandish right here, crazy outlandish, in all the media, all the left-wing progressives in the media here, the newspapers, the TV, all picked it up, conservative talk show host in Wichita, Kansas says something totally crazy. You know what people are going to do? They're going to come and listen to the show and say, like, who is this guy? What's he all about? No, I'm not much of a shock jock. I'm more of a commonsensical, at least I try to be commonsensical, realistic kind of guy, but I could totally turn into a shock jock and just say something crazy and get media attention, and then people could try and be paying attention to the show to see what's he going to say next. That's what Alex Jones is. He's a shock jock. Now, I agree with a lot of what he says, and he does make sense to it in that sense, but he does it in a way that's unique from anybody else, so people pay attention to him. And when they go after him, then that gives him more publicity. I mean, if you saw after they banned him from social media, the app that he came out with, the InfoWars app, was #1 download for like an entire week or 2 weeks or whatever it was. It's insane. Millions of people downloaded his app. He only got more publicity from it. That's a good thing for him. That's a good thing for his network. So the progressives, the ones trying to silence, they forget that when you begin to silence and you make someone a martyr, that only emboldens that movement, it only emboldens that message, and it goes against what they're actually trying to accomplish. 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phones. Get your phone call line number 2. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Jim.
Good morning, Jim. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm pretty good.
Good.
There's so many good topics. I'd love to have time to cover them all, but I want to say the one thing. When they pulled Mr. Brennan's security clearance, the news media and other people started talking about how they were trying to shut him up and restrict his First Amendment rights. And it should be understood, everybody here in town that's in the military knows something. If you have a security clearance, you have restricted your right to speak about certain topics to certain people.
Sure. And we've forgotten that in society today, haven't we?
You can only talk to people with an equivalent or higher security clearance about certain topics. Pulling his security clearance, what it means is that the White House is no longer going to call Mr. Brennan in to discuss what happened in Africa or Asia or South America anymore. They're not going to ask his advice. They're not going to update him on what's going on in the world, and that's what's happened. He has lost his ability to have secret advanced information about what may happen 6 months or a year from now. Mm-hmm. It would be like having you shut off from the contact with the telephone so you could talk to people out here in your audience. Exactly.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, we've forgotten because of partisanship, because of the divisive politics today. As you mentioned, we've lost the civility to understand the right that when you actually have a security clearance, when you have access to information, then you're not supposed to share that with other individuals unless you're doing it intentionally to sabotage the individual that gave you the information or the person that's in power right now because you despise them. But that's against the law.
Yeah. But one other thing, too, before we go. You were talking about how you looked at your telephone and saw where you'd been.
Yes.
I wonder if they caught this murderer who killed his wife and kids out in Colorado because they looked at his telephone travels.
Could be. I don't know. I mean, it is, the technology with the tracking, I don't like it because of the fact that, it totally violates your private property and your privacy as an individual. But at the same time, I wonder how much of that could actually help to some degree with individuals who claim that they weren't involved in some kind of crime, claim they weren't involved in some kind of murder, and then they could track to see where they were at that time with some kind of timestamp on maybe their GPS route. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that there's benefits to that to some degree. I don't like it just because of the sense that it's, totally violating your privacy. And I don't think that we should have that type of technology. But we do, and it's going to happen. And I guess my theme on that is just, is a little unreasonable because it's already here. It's going to happen whether we like it or not.
I was on a trip a year or so ago. We were going up to Illinois to visit family, and we couldn't find my brother-in-law's house.
Sure.
And just for the hell of it, I said to my telephone his name, which is an unusual name.
Sure.
And it popped up a map on my telephone with a mark right on his house.
Sure. Oh, sure. And I mean, that's the new technology today. You say it's I'm not going to say the name because then everybody's phones will pop up there. I appreciate it very much, Jim, and have a great weekend. But you're right. I mean, you type up the name. There it is. The address pops right up. There it is. You're good to go. It's kind of interesting. I mean, it's unique. It's definitely handy. But is it right? Got to be very concerned about that stuff. Who's looking at it on the other side? Again, putting on that tinfoil hat for the day. 316-721-8255. Let's sneak in another phone call here, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
Hi, Andy. This is Helen again.
Good morning, Helen.
I'm doing just great,
Good.
and hope you are too.
Absolutely.
You talking about the progressives, the alt-left, socialists. There's, like God says, there's nothing new under the sun. And they're basically following the doctrine of Satan, as it says in St. Matthew chapter 4, starting with verse 8. Again, the devil taketh him, Jesus Christ, up into exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms or all the nations of the world, and the glory of them. Number 9, and saith unto him, all these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Well, basically, that's what the alt-left, the progressives, the socialists are saying. Well, if you let us be your leaders and rulers, then we'll give you all that you want.
Oh, sure. I mean, the safety nets and the government programs and the guaranteed jobs and all the money. You don't have to worry about a single thing. Just to pay attention to us and keep us in power, and we'll take care of you. It is. I mean, we've always mentioned it, and Ian Coulter wrote a book about it, and it is a mentality that's been around for a while, but the church of liberalism, because, well, you know, as long as you put your faith in the bureaucrats, then they'll take care of you all nice and warm and cozy now, won't they? Helen, I appreciate it very much. Have a great weekend. Great to talk to you. 316-721-8255. 12 minutes to the top of the hour. We'll take a break here. Wrap up hour number 1. We do have a lot to get to. I got some local issues to talk about today. We'll recap and kind of finish up some of the election talk that happened over the last week or so with the primaries, get set for the general, and whatever else is on your mind on a free-for-all Friday. It's going to be a fun one today. Stay here.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason on the Mid-America Network.
7 minutes to the top of the hour, waking you up on a Friday morning. Let's get pumped up. We got to work hard to party hard, baby. That's what we're all about. And by party hard, I mean sleep all weekend because you're really tired after working hard all week. That's what that's been my habit lately. That's all right, though. I dig it. I enjoy it. I love it. Welcome in 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK on a free-for-all Friday. But as you know, it's not just a free-for-all Friday. It is a fried chicken Friday, brought to you by the Inman Harvest Cafe, 112 South Main Street in downtown Inman, just north of Hutch. Katie's back on the line with us here. And good morning, Katie. Happy Fried Chicken Friday.
Good morning, Andy. Happy Fried Chicken Friday to you. Yeah, you know the best way to start your weekend is with fried chicken.
Is kind of with fried chicken. That's kind of the best way to do it. It's with a hearty breakfast, with a nice fried chicken buffet, and then you get to start off the weekend and just kind of roll from there.
Yeah, because who wants to cook after working all week long? Well, except me.
Well, that is true. That is true. But I you know what? You kind of have to enjoy it with how good it is, right? I mean, if you know that everybody's enjoying it, you got to kind of enjoy cooking, right?
I love it. Yeah, I really do. Because you know, I mean, we put out an excellent product, and we've got great people, and we've got great customers. So, you know, what's not to love other than government regulation and insurance and paying bills, you know.
Well, see, you know, that whole stuff. Yeah. Thanks, government. Thanks. Thanks a whole lot.
Yeah.
So today, as usual, you have the breakfast going on right now. It sounds like it's already busy. People trickling in, doing the breakfast thing. Then you're going to have the big lunch buffet, 11 to 1 o'clock. You got the dinner buffet from 5 to 8 o'clock tonight. Other than the fried chicken, other than the roasted beast, what's on the lineup for today?
Today we're going to have a chicken and tater tot casserole, and that's like you know, you got your traditional tater tot casserole with beef and tater tots on top, but this one's going to be chicken, and it's got a cheddar cheese type sauce that we're going to make to put over it. It's actually supposed to be made with cheddar cheese soup, condensed cheddar cheese soup, but we don't buy, like when the recipe says cream of mushroom or cream of chicken or whatever. We just make that and then put it in there. So we're going to make some cheddar cheese soup and put it in with the chicken. It's got some corn, tomatoes, veggies in there, and then over top of that we'll put some crunchy tater tots.
Very nice.
So Yeah, so we'll have that. We'll also have a beef and cheese enchilada, and we make our own enchilada sauce here. So I've got that, and then we'll roll them up into enchiladas and bake them up, and I'm real excited about that because I meant to have it last week, but it didn't get done, so so now I'm like, all week long I've been thinking about those enchiladas.
You know
I'm
what?
excited.
That's a good way to do that. I love enchiladas,
Yeah.
and that's a good way to start off a Friday there as well with some enchiladas. So, well, good. You got cheese and taters, which I mean, you can't really go wrong with that. You got beef and cheese enchiladas. You got fried chicken. You got the roast beef. That's kind of a nice hearty day for meals.
Yeah, and since it's kind of gloomy out, I don't know what it's supposed to be like today, but that sounds to me like all that's good comfort food. So.
That's what I'm talking about. So, and then, of course, we have to remind everybody, come your dinner buffet from 5 to 8 o'clock. You do have that free slice of pie. And what kind of pies do you have on slate today?
Today we've got coconut cream, we've got peanut butter, chocolate, Dutch apple, pumpkin, and custard. Then we're going to be working on a couple of other ones this afternoon. I'm not sure which ones yet. I'm gonna let Nick decide.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Now, I do have to ask, I mean, you're talking about the new and improved different ice cream flavors because you guys do make your homemade ice cream as well. Do you guys ever experiment with new pie flavors?
Oh, yeah, we do different pies all the time. So if you, generally speaking, the list that I give you is only like the beginning. Because a lot of times on Friday afternoons we take a little bit and make new stuff. Nick's a champion at making mystery pie.
Mystery
Which is
pie.
usually you're never quite sure what it's gonna be until you eat it, and then everybody's like, "Ooh, what's in the mystery pie?" Well, it's a surprise.
Well, see, I'm pretty sure that maybe bumbleberry pie was an experiment in mystery pie at some point.
A long time ago, yeah. A long time ago.
See?
That's right.
There you go. I love it. Inman Harvest Cafe, 112 South Main Street, downtown Inman. It's a Fried Chicken Friday. Go check it out just north of Hutch. Give them a call, 720-585-6925. Katie, good. You guys enjoy. Have fun for breakfast, and we'll check in here again in a couple hours.
All right. Thanks, Andy. We'll talk to you later.
There we go. Always a pleasure there with the Inman Harvest Cafe. I don't know if you're aware or not, but I do enjoy my food. We have great sponsors across the board when it comes to the Inman Harvest Cafe on Fridays and Riverside Cafe on Thursdays, and we always give away a goodie there. And we had, which, by the way, we'll tell you about that experience. Went to Riverside Cafe last weekend and got to enjoy their best fried chicken I think I've ever had. Fantastic. So I do enjoy that stuff. We appreciate Inman Harvest Cafe very much so here on The Voice of Reason, along with all the others. We'll take a break, wrap up hour number 1, top of the hour news coming up. When we come back, we'll get into some of the local issues, statewide issues, again, recapping some of the election things. Get your thoughts and calls as well on a Fried Chicken Friday, on a Free-for-All Friday. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
It's time for Reason.
They're delusional. The blinders are on. I don't know if it's the higher education. I don't know whether it's the Common Core education. I don't know whether it's just been brainwashing for years and years and years. But when you lay out blatant facts to them, they refuse to listen. They refuse to acknowledge. There's so much opportunity to where if we just at least had a discussion and they opened their ears for a slight minute, then maybe they'd have a different perspective.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome to hour number 2 of The Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas. On the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting on TV as well. KGPT TV, channel 2610. Good morning. Welcome aboard. It's great to have you along today on a Friday. Yes, let's make it a free-for-all Friday. Come on. Today is the day. Whatever's on your mind, bothering you, troubling you, it does not matter. Let's talk about it. Let's chat about it. Let's therify ourselves in the political sense. Come on.
Let's do it. Yes, girl.
316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, we'd love to hear from you today. Big things happening, big stories to talk about, statewide issues, recapping elections that happened over the last week, and many of them very, very close. I know we've talked about them before, but we are really excited about many of the politicking that's happened as of late here in the state of Kansas. Conservatives winning Republican seats that were prior Republicans, incumbent Republicans that weren't necessarily the more conservative type of Republicans. We have a general election now to where we have numerous opportunity to win over some Democrat seats. Can we do it? We can if we actually show up to vote in the election in November. We do have to give credit the Hutchinson race for the House district up there. As you know, the incumbent Steve Becker and the conservative challenger Paul Wagner. He's a contributor to the Hutch News up there. He is a solid conservative. He ends up winning that race. On Tuesday night, if you remember last week on Election Day, he was up by 1 vote. 1 vote. Now, for the family that's at home and you're like, we could have had 2 votes, but we just didn't show up because 2 votes don't really matter. Yeah, they do. 1 vote he ended up winning by. We waited for the provisional ballots, and the official number is finally in, and Paul Wagner ends up winning by 9 votes, 2,045 to 2,036 that Steve Becker ended up receiving on that one. So Paul Wagner ends up winning that one of those that ended up flipping from a light red, moderate red seat to a conservative red seat. And congratulations to Paul Wagner. We had him on the show right before the election, and we'll get him back on the program now. He'll be one of our regulars to reach out to, or semi-regulars at least, to reach out to and chat with about legislative issues. But congratulations to Paul Wagner on that run with a 9-vote victory. Yes, voting matters. Yes, your vote actually does matter. Just think how close this race is going to be going into November. It was extremely close in the primary. Imagine what's going to be like in the general election. It's going to be like that. I guarantee you for many of the, not some races, but many of the races, it's going to be very close. We're going to have a 3-way run when it comes to the governor's race. We're going to have many of these House seats that are going to be really, really close because some districts may not care for as conservatives, which is why they maybe had moderate Republican incumbents. The Democrats are going to feel an opportunity to say, hey, they went too far to the fringe. Let's try and take them out. And while we're saying, hey, now we have an opportunity to actually represent solidly as a Republican Party. It's going to be really fun to see what happens here. So I am excited. And congratulations to Paul Wagner. Congratulations to all the conservatives that ended up winning over the last week in the primary elections here in the state of Kansas. There was a couple, though. There are a few. And do you know the organization, Women for Kansas, I believe it is? Kind of a left-wing organization. And every year they do a Q&A, a question deal, to where they send the questionnaire to the candidates, incumbent, non-incumbent, whatever, and they send it to them, get their platform, and then they grade them, and then they do endorsements or they don't do endorsements or whatever. But they send it out to a couple, and this is the perfect example of what we're trying to fight. What we're trying to change, because this has been the mentality that we've heard in Topeka for the last 5 years, 6 years, 8 years. This is exactly what we're trying to fight, and I think this really almost constitutes as...
It's your Pinko Flaming Commie Corner.
So as we go about, listen to the... Now, this is I'm not going to give the names of these individuals, but let's just say they are, quote-unquote, Republicans that did a Q&A for Women for Kansas, this progressive organization. And you can tell just by the questions of how the questions are actually asked in the questionnaire as well. But this, and I highlighted some of the questions that we'll read here, that was asked by a progressive organization that was responded to by Republicans. And this is what we tried to actually fight to change this year. Number 1, fiscal policy. Question 1, while the tax policies of the Brownback-Collier administration were not your responsibility... These are apparently for the new individuals coming in or potentially coming in. What is your view of those policies? You can already sense the derogatory comments about the Brownback-Collier. Of course, they had to drop in Collier in case he had gotten the nomination. These were done a few months ago. Administrations that were not your responsibility. They're not your responsibility. They failed, but you weren't part of that. What do you think about them? Hint, hint, wink, wink. Response by Republican. We must have tax policies which restore fiscal responsibility to Kansas. That means the taxes must pay our debts and allow us to invest in the future. Now, first off, it's not physical responsibility. It would be fiscal responsibility. Just a word to the wise, but it does say physical, as in like physical ed type of thing. But no, it should be fiscal responsibility. Number two, we must have tax policies which restore fiscal responsibility to Kansas. That means taxes must pay our debts and allow us to invest in the future. Meaning that spending habits aren't the problem in the government. We must raise taxes to create enough tax revenue to spend on the projects that we want to spend as a government. That's issue number one. Question number two. Would you oppose efforts such as those pursued towards the end of the last legislative session to rewrite the law so that any additional revenues due to the state as the result of the federal income tax changes would instead go to individuals favoring the wealthiest? No bias in there. Tax breaks. They don't say it as tax breaks, but they say it as money going towards the wealthiest, money going back to the people. It's a terrible, horrible thing. We shouldn't be having something like that. And do you encourage additional revenues due to the state and the result of the federal income tax changes would instead go to individuals? How dare you? What's your thoughts on that? Because you can't be having money go to the wealthy. Response? Any extra money that comes in due to federal tax law changes should go towards road improvements, funding schools, and paying back capers. Response by Republican. Yeah, it shouldn't go back to the people. It should go back to the state in order to be able to cut any tax money that comes in as a tax break from the federal level for individuals. We should then offset that by raising taxes at the state level in order to be able to consume that at the state, because that is more important than the people. This is a Republican, mind you, again. Number two. That was point A and point B for the fiscal thing. Number two, public education. They could say a statement about their view on public education. Education funding for Kansas students was one of the most significant casualties of the Brownback experiment, resulting in reduced per-pupil spending, inadequate pay for Kansas teachers, and lowered education outcomes. All right. I don't know if you're aware or not, but education, we've talked about this many times before, but educational funding has increased over the last 12 years by 2% every single year. I'm not sure where the casualty was. I'm not sure where the decreased funding was. I'm not sure where the punishment was on teachers or on students. Do we need to invest in those? Yeah, we do. Why haven't we? You can ask the local school boards and you can ask the administrators. That's a question for them. Casualty of the Brownback policies. Again, a Republican responding to these. Shall we continue? 2.A. If elected, will you seek to ensure that K-12 higher education K-12 and higher education are adequately funded? Response by Republican, yes. The Kansas Supreme Court has ruled that the funding is not adequate, and I would work to fund it at the local level, at the level required by the Taylor study, including increasing for inflation. Just what they responded to. Yeah, inflation, $100 million every single year, automatic. To a T. They want it to be kind of like the federal level, where it's the mandatory spending for social programs that in a collective whole federal budget is 60+% of the entire federal budget, but it's on mandatory spending, which means you're not allowed to touch it. It just increases by inflation every single year, anywhere from 2 to 3%. It grows, it does its thing, it just automatically does it, and then you just have to find the revenue for it. And if we run into a debt, then we just increase more taxes. That's what they want. I mean, education is already 61% of the entire state budget. When you talk about K through 12 and you talk about higher education, it's 61% of a $7 billion state budget. But we should make it mandatory spending. We should lump it into its own category. We should increase it by inflation every single year, and you're not allowed to touch it. When was the last time we touched any social program at the federal level and actually did a substantial reform and cut back on some of that spending? Hasn't happened, has it? No. We talk about slowing the growth of. Donald Trump was accused of trying to cut $10 billion out of certain social programs, Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP programs, whatever. It wasn't even a cut. It was the slowing of the growth, because it was the $10 billion spanned over 10 years. And it was a slowing of the growth. Instead of growing at 3%, we wanted to grow by 1.5%. And nope, not allowed to do that because you hate poor people. And that's the argument that they get. This is what they want to do with our education system in the state of Kansas. Number 3, health care. Oh, by the way, number 2, point B. Do you oppose giving tax breaks to parents who wish to send their children to private schools? No. Number 3, health care. The Brownback administration's refusal to expand Medicaid imposed serious financial burdens on Kansas hospitals, particularly in rural areas, and denied some 150,000 Kansans access to good medical care. Apparently good should be defined because that's kind of a broad spectrum of what good actually is, because government health care is not good. And of course they went after Governor Sam Brownback on that one. Medicare giving the legislature the power to gut, privatize, or significant alter. There's a question that I kind of half missed. But do you believe in the Medicare giving legislature the power to gut, privatize, or significantly alter after where the revenue actually goes? Response by Republican: no, we've seen how the state manages health care. Yeah, so why would you want to increase that? Doesn't make any sense to me. Number 5, voting rights. Kansas has been the forefront of efforts to discourage eligible voters from going to the polls through unnecessary, unwarranted, and arguably illegal proof of citizenship requirements. Coming from a Republican. If elected, would you oppose a measure designed to suppress the vote? Yes, every citizen should be allowed to vote without undue obstacles, and every vote should be fairly and accurately counted. Like anybody's arguing that it shouldn't be accurately counted in any way, shape, or form. These are the answers. These are the responses from a Republicans to a liberal group doing the questionnaire. If you're going to Topeka, what will you believe in? This is what we fought against. This is why we had 12 seats that were moderate Republican incumbent seats that we had conservatives contesting, and we won 7 of them. This is why, for the first time in years, we actually had conservatives actually challenging many of these Republicans in primary races, which they've never had to worry about before. This is why we stood up and we had record number turnout for this election. This is why people are fired up and they want change in the state of Kansas because of answers like this. 20 minutes past the hour. Your thoughts and calls when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
5 minutes past the hour. Welcome into The Voice of Reason right here on the Big Talker KQAM. Happy Friday to you. Happy Free for All Friday to you. Whatever's on your mind, we'd love to chat with you today. 316-721-8255. You know what? I feel bad for individuals that are really non-politically engaged. I kind of sort of do. At the same time, I don't. But hear me out. I feel bad for the individuals that don't necessarily follow politics as much. I mean, you should, and I like people to be a little bit more engaged, but at the same time, some people just get turned off by it altogether. I am the only one in my family, which, you know, how extreme I go to it, because this is all I do 24 hours a day is I enjoy politics, and I enjoy talking politics and chatting and thinking and reading about it and debating and dialoguing. I could debate all day long. I don't really care. That's just how I enjoy it. That's what I do. But I am the only member of my family that actually enjoys politics. There's so many people out there, so many people. And my parents are the prime example of that, to where they don't follow the politics as much because it just frustrates them. They don't want anything to do with it. They don't want to hear about the bickering. They don't want to hear about the yelling back and forth. They don't want to hear about the manipulation, the twisting of the different issues. They don't know what side to believe. They don't know what to believe, and they just don't want anything to do with it. Then you have the younger generation that cares more about what Kim Kardashian's doing on Twitter than they actually do about what the president's doing. Luckily, that generation's starting to pay a little bit more attention, because then you have Donald Trump that's on Twitter, or you have the celebrities that are tweeting about him. Now, most of the celebrities aren't tweeting the nicest things about him, but at least they're paying attention to some degree and at least recognize what's going on to some degree. Again, to some degree. But I feel bad for the individuals not involved in politics. Even, you may be going to work right now and you're turning on the radio, listening to some issues, what's going on in the world sort of thing. And you don't want necessarily to, you want to understand some, but you don't want to driven and, jam down your throat, which I get. But then you have like the NFL, to where they're still kneeling for the national anthem. Guess what? It's turned into a political issue. All the sports have turned into a political issue. It's really upsetting. And then we see the parties, or we see the ideologies that are going, what seem to be going a little bit more and more and more and more to the fringe. What's actually happening, though, and one of these days, I swear I'm going to write a book on this. I promise. Every radio host apparently needs to have a book, so I guess I need to have one too. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Hang tight. But I need to write, because when we talk about the political ideologies going one way or another and the spectrum, first off, I don't see it as a straight line and as a spectrum. I see it almost as a circle. But if you want to talk about the ideologies, socialism has never been accepted in the country. Never really, until the Great Deal, until FDR, until the socialists have come out and said, yeah, you know what, we need to start going down this road. And it's been the long progression, the slow progression, but a long progression of socialist safety nets and socialist government programs and the collective thought and Saul Alinsky and all these other mentalities that they try and come up with. And it's been ongoing for a long time. They have become more extreme. They have become to the fringe. They have gone farther and farther and farther and farther. We, as conservatives, have stayed relative. Now, I mean, we've slid a little bit as well, but we've pretty much tried to throw in our anchor and trying to hang tight with traditionalism as much as we possibly can. When you talk about the political spectrum, it's not that the parties are being more divided. It's not that the ideologies are becoming more and more divided. It's that one is staying true to where it originally came from, the origins, the tradition, while the other side goes farther and farther and farther away from the origins to where there's a larger gap. So all the moderates in the middle, all the independents in the middle, all the ones that maybe vote on both sides of the aisle, depending on the character of the person or what their particular issue is, their flavor of the day, whatever that may be, they're stuck in the middle, and they're seeing one side that's trying to hold on and preserve to what's been and what's worked and what has been, and the other side's trying to change everything and trying to go farther and farther and farther away. Yes, they're becoming more and more divided, but it's because one side's moving and the other side's not. And there's a big difference between that and then us, both sides, going in farther and farther to the extremes on both ends. We got to be aware of that, because conservatism, we've actually slid farther to the left compared to what we were historically in the nation, but yet they're saying that we're going farther to the fringe. We're not moving. They are. Let's be aware of that when we go into this. When we come back, there is a forecast of the national races across the nation, including Kansas, when it comes to the federal House seats, the House of Representatives. Will the Democrats be able to have their blue wave and change some of the seats? We'll talk about that when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
It's time for some common sense, sanity, and reason.
You can't handle the truth.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
The Iran Action Group will be responsible for directing, reviewing, and coordinating all aspects of the State Department's Iran-related activity. That will report directly to me. We must see major changes in the regime's behavior, both inside and outside of its borders. The Iranian people and the world are demanding that Iran finally act like a normal nation.
That was Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, yesterday, commenting on Iran and the way Iran's been acting lately, some of the threats, some of the comments that they've been making. And I got to say, first off, isn't it so cool? Again, I can never get over this feeling, the fact that, Mike Pompeo, former representative from this district, from this area, growing up in this area, the fact that he is the Secretary of State, he's working with President Trump. He's one of the best Secretary of States that we've had in a really long time. I mean, come on, that's true, isn't it? What Secretary of State did we have under Barack Obama? Oh, yeah, that's right, John Kerry. Ha! Oh, yeah, Hillary Clinton. Ha! That's hysterical. And now we have Mike Pompeo. If you saw the pictures of him when he met Kim Jong-un for the first time, and he's towering over him and he's got that stern look and he's shaking his hand, but it looks like he's trying to rip his hand off. It's kind of comical to watch. And now he's going after Iran. I'm just really happy the fact that we have somebody in there that we can respect, that we can trust, that he's going to do a good job, that he's going to be stern on other nations, understanding that America is the priority, at least for us. Welcome in 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. I dig it. I enjoy it. I'm glad that we actually have someone like that in office representing. And it really goes to show the difference in the character between Barack Obama and his mannerisms and who he has representing him in the administration, and Donald Trump and who he has in the administration, and the smartness that he has of being able to choose certain candidates, being able to choose certain individuals to do certain jobs. And I know at the beginning, remember, it was the high turnaround. Every month we'd be seeing someone leave and then someone go and then someone hired and then they'd leave a month later, and it was the ongoing rotating door. if you've noticed, that routine has stopped. Why? Because he's found the right individuals to do the job now. It takes a little bit of time. All right, hey, you know what? You weren't doing the job the way we needed to. You've been a bureaucrat for too long. You weren't doing things at the pace I needed to be done. You weren't doing the things I wanted to be done. You're out. Goodbye. See you later. Let's get somebody new. You don't hear about that anymore. The first year, God, it drove me nuts. The first year you'd hear every day on the news, oh, so-and-so's leaving already. Look at this. Donald Trump didn't know how to choose the right people. Donald Trump doesn't know how to do the right job. And now look at the way we're rolling. Look at the way we're going. And this is going to reflect, into the midterm election. The Democrats, nationwide or even statewide, feel that they have the momentum, feel like they have an opportunity, feel like that if the media continues to say that Donald Trump is a fascist, that Donald Trump is a Nazi, that Donald Trump is a hateful bigot, that he hates women, that it's not going to work any longer. Maybe it would have worked at the very beginning of the election if they, everybody freaked out, everybody panicked right at the beginning for the first 3 or 4 months of his term, of his administration. They would have said that. They would have had an election at that time. Oh, wait a second. It didn't happen. Wait a second. It didn't, because many individuals had open seats in their House seats or their Senate seats because they were chosen to go to the administration to work for Trump 3, 4, 5 months after his presidency. And what happened? Oh, yeah, all of them were retained by Republicans. I don't know where they're getting these forecasts saying that the Democrats are going to take over, the Democrats are going to sweep, the Democrats are going to have this opportunity, because they've said that since the time that Donald Trump got elected. They said that even before Donald Trump got elected, that there's no way Donald Trump's going to win. Hillary Clinton's going to be there. We're going to maintain this blue wave. We're going to maintain this progressive mentality. And look at this. It never happened. All their forecasts have been wrong. They gave Donald Trump a 2% chance of winning on Election Day. See how well that worked out. As soon as Trump got in office, people are upset. They hate him already. People are panicky of the fact that he actually got into office. The blue wave's coming. All these special elections are all going to go Democrat. None of them did. Ron Estes was a prime example of that. People just had an election. They're coming down from the emotional high of the election and of the political time. Then we have a special election that April, and people didn't show up. While the Democrats, they despised Donald Trump even way back then, were rallied, were ready for the progressive movement, were ready for the beginning of the blue wave, and we beat them by 7 points. Beat them by 7 points, and we didn't even show up for that special election. Now they're saying, it's going to be the next one. It's going to be the next one. We got this. We're going to have this blue wave. It's going to come. It's going to happen. Hasn't happened yet. We had a conservative wave here in Kansas for our statewide races. The national races, the same election day as us. Ohio had theirs. Republicans maintained that House seat when they were expected to lose drastically because Ohio is a very moderate red state. John Kasich's one of the worst governors that this country has actually seen. And everybody said, you know what? It's going to be a blue wave, that it's going to happen. It's a very unionized state. It's a very manufacturing state. It's predominantly goes Democrat. It's a very purple state to that degree. Donald Trump's very divisive. He's not going to do well in Ohio again. And guess what? In a special election last week, the same day that we had ours here in Kansas, we maintained a Republican seat in Ohio. And the Democrats don't know what to say. So now they're carrying it on. It's kind of like the prophecy people that say that, the end of the world's coming, the Armageddon, the doomsday preppers, where they try and say that this is the day the world's going to end. Remember that 2012 with the Mayan calendar, all these other different prophecies. The world is going to end this day. Everybody listens to them then. And then when that day comes and then that day goes, then we never go back to them and say, hey, you have no idea what you're doing, because then they come out and they say, no, actually, our calculation was wrong. This is going to be the day. So then everybody gets worked up and everybody says, okay, this is going to be the day now. Everybody listens to them again. And then the day comes and then the day goes. That's the same with the Democrats right now. The blue wave's coming. It's going to happen. It's going to come just months after Donald Trump gets elected with those special elections. Nope. No, the blue wave's coming. The blue wave, it's going to happen with these primaries and with these races, the special elections going before the midterms. Hasn't happened. Now they're saying the blue wave's coming. It's going to come. The midterm election's here. People are really upset with Donald Trump. His approval rating's 50% higher than what Barack Obama was at this time. Doesn't matter. Nope. Blue wave's coming. People are really hating Donald Trump. People really think he's a fascist. People really think he's a racist. It's coming. Get ready. Kansas is going to go purple, they say. Kansas is going to flip to the blue. We have the 2nd Congressional District with Lynn Jenkins stepping down, and we have a Democrat with Paul Davis that's going to take over that seat. It's going to be the blue wave. We have a Democrat running in the 3rd Congressional seat against Kevin Yoder, where Kevin Yoder's a really moderate Republican who's a Trump supporter. We don't like him. We're going to have a gay Native American woman run for that seat, so she covers 3 check boxes that we actually look for as a Democrat Party. Who cares what her platform is? She's checking off the collective groupthink mentality. She's going to win that seat. It's going to turn blue. We have a socialist running against Ron Estes in the 4th Congressional seat. Bernie Sanders is going to come out and rally for him. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to come out and rally for him. We're going to rally and energize the base of the Democrats and the socialists, even though they were energized a year ago in the special election when we weren't energized or excited, and we still beat them by 7 points. That doesn't. No, it's going to happen this year. The fact that we even have more unaffiliated registered voters in the 4th District than we do even Democrats, that we have twice as many registered Republicans than we do Democrats, doesn't matter. We're going to win. The blue wave's going to happen, and we're going to turn the state purple. We're going to turn the state blue, actually, because we're going to flip apparently 3 of the House races. We're going to change the governorship. That's their mentality. I don't know where they're coming up with that enthusiasm. I mean, all the power to them. Hoorah, wave the flag and feel really proud about yourself. But it's and sometimes you have to do that going into a losing battle. You know that it's kind of a suicide mission, but yet you still do it anyways to rally the troops. I'm wondering if that's what their cause is, because they cannot do that. They cannot win. Now, on the national front, they're still saying that they're going to pick up massive amounts of seats across the board, across the nation. According to the latest forecast, and according to 538.com, Northeast Census Region, they want to net gain 9 seats. In the Midwest, 9 seats. In the South, 9 seats. In the West, 8 seats. They want to pick up close to 30 seats, apparently, according to them. I don't know how. I don't know where, but get all the power to them. They still think that this is going to happen, that the Trump-supporting candidates are not doing well on the Republican side, that Trump supporters within the Republican Party that are running for office, they're wavering, they're falling to the wayside, they're at risk right now because you cannot associate with Donald Trump. Let me tell you something. As far as I'm aware, in all these primaries, the Trump-supporting Republican candidates are the ones winning the Republican primaries across the nation. Not losing, they're winning. Now tell me how that's a lack of support for Donald Trump and the Trump Republican Party right now that's struggling, that's wavering, and that's breaking down. The big news, of course, the Breitbart.com had the big story about Chris Kobach, Trump-supporting Republican candidate, beats incumbent governor for the primary, which is the first time in Kansas history that it's happened. The closest Kansas primary race that's ever happened in the state of Kansas. They ran the story. We heard the stories of up north. What was it? Minnesota, Montana, whatever the primary race was recently there. Republican Trump-supporting candidate ends up winning nominee for the governorship or ends up winning for the House seats. The Trump supporters are. This is big news. Now, where they're coming off with their ideas that the blue wave is going to happen, I just don't understand. This should be encouraging for Republicans, by the way. As we go into the general election, as we start looking at our candidates, we start running and we start door knocking, we start making the phone calls, we start helping out candidates at the statewide level, at the federal level, and we're involved in all these campaigns and doing what you can to be active, because we do have the energy, we do have the numbers on our side, we do have the enthusiasm. This should be good for us, because again, we're not here just to play the game. We're here to dominate. We're here to preserve liberty. We're here to preserve constitutionalism. We're here to preserve traditionalism. And that's what we're going to do. We're not just going to beat them. We're going to stomp out the flame. The state Democratic Party in Kansas is damaged and broken. We're going to stomp out the flame. And we can do it. We can do it. And we're going to do it nationwide, not just in Kansas, but nationwide. They say that Trump's support is low. He's at 50% right now, higher than what Barack Obama was at this time. That says something. All the Trump Republican candidates are winning the primaries across the nation. That says something. Now, they're going to the fringe. They're going farther and farther to the left because they see it as, like we said, you know what? A black or a Native American gay woman that's running for office here in Kansas. Do you think that's going to go anywhere? First off, I don't care about that. I'm not in the collective. I'm not about the group thing, seeing how many boxes we can check. I'm about ideas. And obviously, it's going to be a very liberal tendency there, but that's what they're hyped up about. You had the first transgender woman that actually got the nomination for the Democrats in Vermont for the governorship. Who cares about the platform? Got to check off the boxes. They're going more to the extreme, thinking it's going to help the base, when in fact that's just the fringe of the base that actually supports that idea. They're going to hurt themselves. And just like every forecast that they've had in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they're going to lose. They're not going to get the majority in the House. They may not get the majority in the Senate. And we can continue on to do the right thing for America, because whoever they're polling, it's not the average American. Whoever they're polling here is not the you and I going to work every day and having our voice heard. And that's how Donald Trump got elected, was when you and I, who usually don't have our voice heard, the silent majority, the ones working every day, when we showed up to the voting booth and we made our voice heard. 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phones here. Line at number 1. Good morning. What's your name? Nope. I guess we lost him. I don't know who we're calling. Hello? Yes. Give me a call back. I want to hear from you. 316-721-8255. 48 minutes past the hour. This is The Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
6 minutes to the top of the hour. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Wrapping up hour number 2. Hour 3, we will set aside the politics for just a minute. If you're starting a small business, if you're looking at maybe you have a small business, listen up. We're going to be talking with David Duryee. He's talking about the mistakes that small businesses make the first year of being in business and why there's such a high failure rate, on why they shut the doors within the first year of having a small business. We'll talk about that coming up in hour number 3. Plus, it is still open lines to you on a free-for-all Friday. Whatever's on your mind, bothering you, troubling you. I want to give you an example of what we were just talking about for a second. As the Democrats and the progressives, they find issues that are non-issue issues, make them an issue, and then get everybody riled up about the issue. Slavery, for example. I mean, there's no slavery obviously going on in the United States right now. I mean, other than like sex trading slavery, but that's not what they talk about. So they get everybody riled up about slavery that happened 300 years ago, 200 years ago. Then we hear about, the safety net social programs to where, it increases every single year. We try and slow the growth of them. And then they campaign on saying that we want to cut benefits for everybody because we hate poor people and we hate old people and we hate the less fortunate and we hate the sick and we hate everything else. They create non-issues and make them issues. Then you see the story that came out like Fox News and CNBC reported yesterday about Donald Trump saying the parade is now going to cost potentially $92 million for a military parade. And we've talked about the military parade before as well, and I think it's kind of an interesting concept. I think it's kind of fun. I don't really care. I'd like to see a military parade. I think that we need to have one to respect our military a little bit more, to show the world our strength a little bit and just kind of flex our muscles. Why not? Every other nation does it. Why the heck not? And they say $92 million. $92 million. Hey. Making a non-issue into an issue. So people get riled up. And then look at this. Donald Trump, first off, this proves that he is a fascist. This shows that he is an absolute fascist because he loves parading the military just as Hitler did. And just like Hitler, he drinks his water just like Hitler did. And then you know what he also did? He also attacked the media just like Hitler did. It's annoying, doesn't it? Not just the sound effect, but it's annoying because, that's what they that's what they believe. So Donald Trump, of course, not caring about the poor or the sick or the less fortunate or whatever else, because we don't want to increase money for social programs. We don't want to give government free health care that's not really free, but we can say it's free so that way people have to pay for it through their taxes, and we just don't know when we have less money in our paycheck. And he won't do that. That's billions and billions and billions of dollars, but he wants to spend $92 million on a military parade to show respect to our military. In hour number 3, we'll have a little fun with that and show you exactly percentage-wise how that falls into the budget if we ended up doing a military parade costing $92 million, and some of the other programs that we end up spending money on, because, and here's your project, if you want to chime in hour number 3, is the fun projects, the fun programs, the fun grants, the fun ways that the federal government likes to spend money. In the porculus stimulus bills, all the different research grants, all the different agencies and departments, everywhere we spend money, how much does that actually cost? And in comparison to the $92 million for our military parade. The parade, I think, would be a great idea. I think we definitely need to do so. I think it would be a lot of fun. And $92 million, according to the federal government's budget, is pocket change. That's like them scraping for pennies in the couch the way that we do to go buy, a big gulp in the morning to get our day started. That's kind of how it costs for the government. And we'll talk about that in hour number 3. Plus, we'll have David Duryee coming on the show talking about small business as well. It is a free-for-all Friday. We got lots more to get to. Having fun wrapping up the week. It's been a crazy one. I know you're tired and exhausted after election season and waiting for the response for the governor's race. But we'll have some more fun coming up in hour number 3. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay tuned. Lots more coming up.
It's time for Reason.
They're delusional. The blinders are on. I don't know if it's the higher education. I don't know whether it's the Common Core education. I don't know whether it's just been brainwashing for years and years and years. But when you lay out blatant facts to them, they refuse to listen. They refuse to acknowledge. There's so much opportunity to where if we just at least had a discussion and they opened their ears for a slight minute, then maybe they'd have a different perspective.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into The Voice of Reason, hour number 3. The Voice of Reason broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. Simulcasting on TV as well, KGPT TV channel 2610, which, by the way, I know that we've heard from a few individuals saying that there was no audio on the TV side. They are aware and they are working on that. Hopefully it'll be back up here shortly, but we are on TV. A lot of people checking that out now. We do appreciate that and love it very, very much. So also on Facebook Live, facebook.com/1480 KQAM. It is a Friday. That means it's a free-for-all Friday today. Whatever's on your mind, bothering you, troubling you. We've touched on some politicking. We've touched on some non-politicking. But let's enjoy the end of the week. What do you say? Come on, baby. Just give it all. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, we'd love to hear from you today, whatever is on your mind. We've touched on the primary races here in Kansas now that they are done and official, with the provisional and mail-in ballots that have come in and the numbers have been set. And we've seen an interesting change in tide here in the state of Kansas. We'll talk about more about that in just a little bit. But I want to shift from a little bit because, as you know, Kansas was one of 2 or 3 states in the nation last year that had negative GDP growth. That's not good. 99% of all GDP growth and business and job growth in the country is small business, meaning that you going to work every day saying, you know what, I kind of don't want to work for a boss anymore. Kind of want to start my own thing. You know what? Kind of frustrated with what I'm doing. Kind of want to go start my own thing. 99% of job growth and jobs in the nation, 99% of business is small business. We always hate on the corporations and always hate on the big companies or whatever, but small business is what started economic growth in this nation. Entrepreneurship, you having the ability to do whatever you want to do, whether it's with a food truck driving around the Wichita area, whether it's starting a brick and mortar shop, whether it's starting an online shop or whatever it is, you with a small business, you are the backbone of this nation. And here in Kansas, we've done a very poor job lately of being able to encourage you to be able to grow, to be able to invest, to be able to save money, to be able to hire employees, because we haven't had great economic success. Because we've had high taxes, high regulations, whatever you want to talk about. But from the business perspective, which is what I want to talk about right now, the business perspective, it is a dangerous thing to some degree because a lot of small business does not last. And after a year or two, many of them shut their doors. And to talk to us about that a little bit more about what you can do as a small business owner, if you're looking to try and start a small business, if you've just started a small business, what can you do to be able to ensure that you're going to succeed and at least last as a small business? The American dream, the streets paved with gold, the opportunity that many individuals flood this nation, even illegally, to try and come here and begin. He is the managing director of Horizon Management Services, LLC. Has been an active in business consulting for years. He is David Duryee on the line with us here. David, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine, thank you, Andy. It's good to be with you today.
I appreciate very much you coming on here. How many small businesses fail in the first couple of years in business because they think they got it figured out and then they end up not having it quite figured out?
The bulk of the businesses that fail really do so in the first 3 to 4 years. And the primary, it's well over 50%. And the primary reason is that it is more difficult to run the business than it is to start the business. And we need to understand the things that are critical to maintaining the success of the business. It isn't that hard, but we need to be aware of the things that need to be done beyond just starting and actually running a successful business.
Sure. What are some of those obstacles if you're just starting a business, and regardless of whatever it may be, whether it's a restaurant or a food truck or whether it's a brick and mortar retail store or whether it's a manufacturing, whatever it is, what are the main obstacles that really get in the way of a small business to where after that first year or two, you're like, I didn't foresee that coming and may have to potentially shut the doors?
I think one of the main obstacles is the lack of ability to really understand the financial side of the business. And people who start businesses do so because they know how to make something or sell something or do something, and they rarely come from the financial side. So we need to demystify the financial side of it. We need to understand how to deal with our banker. We need to know what the financial statements that we are getting really say to us. And we need to get timely and accurate financial information. That's one of the most important things that I find lacking in a lot of startups. They don't have a good bookkeeping system, and they're not getting good information on a regular basis.
We're talking with David Duryee. He's the managing director of Horizon Management Services, also author of the book 60-Minute CFO, Bridging the Gap Between a Business Owner, Banker, and CPA. Talk about, as you mentioned, the finance side and having a plan. How important is it to have an annual business plan, to have an idea on where you're going for that business?
That's really essential, and you indicated in your question exactly why. We need to know where we're going. And most of the businesses, in fact, even established businesses, really don't have an annual plan that they're going by. So we wind up not knowing exactly what we're trying to do. We wind up not having a clear focus of what our goals are, and then we have no way to evaluate how well we're doing. So and maybe take corrective action if we're not doing what we want. So an established plan, maybe 2 to 5% of all businesses do this, but it's an essential part of making that business a success, because now all the team people in that company know what it is that you're trying to do. They know where the company's going, and then more important, they know how they can help. And this is a very powerful thing when everybody's pulling in the same direction for the success of the business.
Talk about quote-unquote bad profit, or if somebody, let's say the first year they do really, really well, it's a big success, it's a big hit, they're raking in profits, they're seeing a lot of good things happen. What are some of the troubles that may come with that? Do people maybe invest too much in and try to expand too quickly instead of finding a stabilization? Do they try and run away with the profits and try and pocket it other than reinvesting in the money or reinvesting into the business? What are some of the challenges that may come with a business to where they see some really great success right off the bat?
Yes, that is exactly what happens. And I think the problem is that most people intuitively connect profitability with cash flow. And not understanding cash flow is really a key problem in a startup operation, because we're not starting with a lot of capital. Typically, we don't have a huge amount to invest in the business. So we need cash flow to reinvest in the business, and that is different than profits. Mm-hmm. And as you grow, the revenue causes additional assets to be needed. We need more inventory. We need more accounts receivable. We need more equipment. And that takes cash more than what the profits are. So we have negative cash flow, and the first inclination is to go to the bank and say, I got all these profits and all this revenue, and I need to borrow some money. And the bank says, what about cash flow? Because that's what you're going to pay back the loan with. And so we need to understand the difference between profitability and cash flow. It's really critical in the first 2 years of the business.
Do any banks see that kind of situation happen when someone comes to them and say, you know what, I have this business, we're seeing a lot of great things happen, I need to get a loan for new, as you mentioned, new equipment or for an expansion or to purchase a new building or something, and then they realize, the business owner realizes pretty quickly that there is that difference between what they're having as profit as opposed to what they're seeing as cash flow for the business?
Yes, banks see it all the time, and so they try as best they can to explain it. We do get, if a CPA provides us with a financial statement, we do get a statement of cash flow from them. But the problem with that is that it isn't really understandable, and worse than that, it isn't replicable so that we can measure cash flow on a regular basis. And bankers are always going to be hesitant because the cash is what's going to pay back the loan, not profits. Mm-hmm. So about 3 years ago, I sat down and said, we really need to have a formula for operating cash flow in the business that we can understand, A, and B, that we can measure and forecast on a regular basis. And so I was able to do that. It took me a long time, but finally I just sat down and said, I've got to do this. And so we have now at least a formula for operating cash flow, and we can project it and show the bank how we're going to pay back the loan with those projections.
That's a really good thing to have. We're talking with David Duryee, Managing Director of Horizon Management Services, also author of the latest book, 60-Minute CFO, Bridging the Gap Between Business Owner, Banker, and CPA. Talk about this formula a little bit. I mean, if someone's looking at trying to set their formula, set their annual business plan, maybe looking at expanding a little bit, talk about that formula and what business owners should be aware of as they're trying to formulate this.
What they need to be aware of is that they need to look at the balance sheet as much as they do, or more so than they do the income statement, because cash flow is determined by primarily a change in assets and liabilities. And as assets go up, cash goes down because we need to have cash to buy the assets. As liabilities go up, cash goes up because we're getting money from the loans or other creditors of the business. So we need to look at the difference from one period to the next of the change in assets and liabilities, which is the major element in determining cash flow, much more so than typically profits are. Profits help, but we need to look at those relationships, and that's what the formula does. And I've got, fortunately, software, complementary software, which does this. You don't really need to worry about the formula so much as the actual number, the cash flow that we're talking about. And I've got software that does all of that. So we don't have to worry about the math of it. We say, here it is. Here's your operating cash flow for this period, and here's how you might project it for the future.
Sure. Last question before we let you go, David, but talk about the rules when dealing with a bank. I mean, unfortunately, every business has to deal with the bank. I know it's not an ideal situation sometimes, but when dealing with the bank, to make sure that it's beneficial for the business owner, and having that relationship with the bank, talk about those steps and the necessities that need to happen.
The first thing is we want to go into the bank and we want to be prepared. We know, or we can easily find out what the bank wants to know about our business. So let's answer the questions before we go in there. Let's talk about the financial strengths and areas that might need improvement in the company, and be prepared to discuss this with the banker. And when we do that, we're going to be one of the few that ever. I was a banker for 16 years, and over that time period, I had exactly 2 customers come in with a well-thought-out analysis of their business, and it was very want to know, we're gonna answer it before they even ask it. Secondly, we want to establish a relationship with that banker because they've got something we want, and we want to have a good relationship with them. We want to like them. We want them to like us. We want them to learn about our business. We want them to come to our business and see what it is that we're doing, and so that they really have a good understanding of it. And finally, we don't want to surprise. The bankers don't like surprises. They just don't. And so we want to communicate with them on a regular basis. Here's how we're doing. Let me know if you have any questions and so forth, so that they know on a regular basis how the business is doing. And if something bad happens, we want to tell them quicker than the good stuff, because they're going to find out anyway, and they aren't going to like the fact that we tried to hide it. So those are the key elements, I think, of really having a good relationship with the bank.
Lots of information. David Duryee, Managing Director of Horizon Management Services, also author of the latest book, 60-Minute CFO, Bridging the Gap Between Business Owner, Banker, and CPA. David, where can people get the book?
The book is available on Amazon and certainly on my website, where they can get the software, which I recommend that they do. All they have to do is download it at 60minutecfo.com. And if anyone ever has any questions about anything that we've covered or anything that's in the book, they can reach me at dave@60minutecfo.com. I'm happy to help. I want to reduce that failure rate. I want to have the businesses in Kansas successful, and by doing some of these things, we really increase the probability that will happen.
Oh, and that's what it's all about. As we mentioned, I mean, close to 99% of the business in the country is small business, and we don't want to see any of that failing. David, we appreciate the time, my friend. Good luck with the book, and we'd love to chat again soon.
Thank you for having me, Andy. I enjoyed it.
Very good. Appreciate it very much there. David Duryee there. So let's take a break. We'll open up lines to you. Get your phone calls when we come back. 316-721-8255. 22 minutes past the hour. This is The Voice of Reason on a Friday.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Minutes past the hour, making it happen today on a Friday. Happy Free for All Friday. Thanks again to David Duryee coming on the program talking about business. We got a lot more to get to. Bottom of the hour news coming up when we come back. We got some calls on the line. Stay here. Don't go anywhere. It is a free for all, which means you can talk about whatever you want to today. As we talk about business and budgets and finances, oh yeah, kind of an important thing, right? We'll talk a little bit about the military parade. Do you think we should have a military parade? Is it worth the $92 million budget bill that they expected or anticipated when it came to doing the military parade? And we'll take a look at some of the others with that. Plus, we do have our state budget as well that I did release that on the social media, on the interweb, whether you're actually able to see it or not because of shadow banning. We'll share it on there again so that way you can't see it. But the state budget is broken down on percentage of where the money goes. We'll talk about all that and more, plus open lines to you to talk about whatever you want to. Phones are lit up. Don't go anywhere. We'll get to you as soon as we come back. It's The Voice of Reason. It's a Friday. Let's do our thing. What do you say?
To read the news.
I'm trying to warn everybody and nobody takes me cereal.
You're in the wrong place. This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, 1480 AM and 102.5 FM, KQAM.
That's it. Welcome into it. This is The Voice of Reason. I am Andy Hoosier, and it is an honor to have you along today for the ride as we celebrate the end of the week. We party hard on the weekend because we work hard during the week. That's the way that we just like to do things. Welcome in 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. It is open line to you for the last little bit of the program, and with that, let's go right to the phones, shall we? Line number one. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Jim.
Good morning, Jim.
Hey, on that subject of new businesses getting started and their problems and pitfalls, one real big problem is new businesses are so desperate to do business that they offer discounts and credit in advance up front instead of waiting to give a discount at the end after they've been paid for their work. And so they, run short of cash, and they actually get scammed by people who specialize in going out and getting, say, architectural drawings done and getting the plans for the building without actually paying for them. On the other hand, you have a problem for homeowners and contractors and stuff who hire somebody to do work, and they pay them up front, and the work doesn't get done. You see the house that's got half a roof stripped off, and the people who are going to do the job are somewhere else, or they do the job with substandard material, or they don't really pave the driveway type of thing. So new businesses are great, but they're risky on all sides, and so that's one reason why they have such a failure rate.
Well, that's true, and I mean we see an 80 to 85% failure rate for a business within the first 3 years, which is kind of a scary thing for that. Jim, I appreciate it. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it, and you're right. I mean, people that are too trusting when it comes to giving credit or giving discounts or something, and then of course when it's too trusting on the consumer side with a business that may not have proven their validity or proven the fact that they're actually going to be a sound business and have a high rating for customer service or actually fulfill what they say they're going to do. There's a lot that goes into it. And then, of course, the government's involved in there as well. How many people actually want to start a business in this day's time with the government regulations and the red tape on telling you how much you can actually do to take care of the business? How would you can actually do it? I mean, come on, if you're in the car industry, for example, you got to do all the environmental emission tests, right? Yeah, because that's the government telling you. So you need to spend some extra money to make sure the cars are in the proper emissions test ranges. And if not, then, say that you're drilling for oil. You're an oil company. Yeah, you probably shouldn't be doing that altogether anyways because you're just a bad, terrible human being for wanting to drill for oil, right? That's the way the government works today. And then, of course, it's all the taxes and the fees and the licenses and getting the permits and everything of that sort. The state actually isn't too terribly bad, thanks to the Secretary of State's department or the office that's been not just Chris Kobach, but even before that, just the working to try and make fees and registrations and everything of that sort very affordable. But then you have the federal government and you start branching out and going across state lines and start making it bigger and bigger the way you need to, then of course, just get ready for the government to take advantage of you. 316-721-8255. As we talk about budgets and we talk about finances, not only with a business, but with even the government itself, according to the National Review, now this is a little bit older, but the programs are still there. The money is still there. And this really shows the lack of transparency. This really shows the lack of efficiency. This really shows the lack of common sense that's happening within our very own government. We've already done this once today before, but let's do it twice
It's
today.
your Pinko Flaming Commie Corner.
Yeah, just a little bit. If you know the 10 most ridiculous ways government wastes your money, taxpayer money, as people are upset about, $92 million for a military parade, and I'd love to get your thoughts on whether we should have a military parade or not, but the 10 most ridiculous ways government wastes your money. This is at the federal level. Number 10. This is going to be like a late night show top 10 countdown. Number 10, $283,000 on Department of Defense bird watching. Yeah, I need to watch them birds. In the sage scrub of the California coast lives a small gray bird known as the California gnatcatcher. Its biggest enemy, cowbirds, which are likely to hijack the gnatcatcher's nests and lay eggs. The poor gnatcatchers never quite realize that they're raising someone else's kin. There you go, $283,000 grant to study those because, we need to figure that out. Number 9, $48,000 to write about Russian smokers. I don't even know. The smoke screen from the Russians as they try and infiltrate into the Donald Trump administration. Number 8, $406,000 to look at chicken and the egg problem. Americans feeling pretty polarized these days, so we need to get down to the bottom of where did it come from first, the chicken or the egg. Number 7, $3.1 billion with a B, $1 billion on vacation for federal employees placed on administrative leave. You get in trouble, you don't do your job the way you're supposed to, take a vacay. You're on administrative leave, but go ahead and spend some money. It's on the government's dime, meaning the public's dime. Go on a vacation until we figure out what to do. Just a few weeks ago, according to National Review, they wrote about the DEA employees caught patronizing prostitutes as they were given bonuses rather than being fired. If anyone needs more proof on that, how incredibly difficult it is to lose a government job. There you have it. Number 6, $5,000 for a documentary film on Madison County, North Carolina's Best Fiddler competition. Well, I mean, come on. If you're going to have a band, you better have some fiddles in it, right? Nearly $150,000 to understand why politics stresses us out. If you need a grant to fill that one out, then here's your sign. Regulating llama farmers out of existence, $65,000 to figure out what bugs do near light bulbs. Number 2, making Americans do their dishes twice. And number 1, $35,000 for solar-powered beer. Yes, my friends, there is solar-powered beer out there, and it's hippie beer. Don't drink it. That's the way it is. Let's go to the phones. Now, all that money, by the way, including the $3.1 billion on administrative leave vacations, with all that money, that's close to just about $31.01 billion in funding. Now, try and compare that to the $92 million that we want to do for a military parade, which would be about 3% of what we spent on absurd ridiculousness. Yet, we need to throw a fit about a military parade respecting our law enforcement, respecting our military, and showing the world a little bit of a flexed muscle, because it is okay to do that once in a while. Let's go to the phones, get your thoughts on this line at number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, Andy, it's Sean here.
Sean, what's going on, sir? How are you?
Oh, man. Well, I had the gripe I wanted to express, but since you brought this subject up about the, government wasting money, how about this one? $1 million to study why fat lesbians are content to be fat.
That one was one from a couple of years ago, wasn't it? Where and I remember one of the other talk shows talking about this, why in the LGBTQ community, why gay women didn't necessarily care or say that they don't care about their appearance, while gay men said that they were very concerned about their appearance, and they had to spend, $1 million, $2 million on that kind of study. Again, more ridiculous spending. Why we care, to me, show of hands, I don't really care in that kind of study, or why people's appearances are the way they seem to be.
Well, yeah, that study was done by the National Institutes of Health, but the fact is that the amount of money that the government spends on a daily basis is just outrageous. So I don't have a problem with a military parade. At first I had to kind of debate it because, I had to think about it, make up my mind, because, when I was growing up, the only military parade there all besides the Bastille Day parade. I'm talking about on TV.
Sure.
Their big military parade in France every year, celebrating Bastille Day or whatever.
Right.
Well, it was the Soviet Union. You see them out there parading their military hardware and whatever other communist country that can afford to do that. But I thought, well, air shows ain't enough. Maybe we need to do something like that. Besides, I heard the Secretary of Defense say on the news break that the $92 million was a lie. Somebody's lying. It ain't gonna cost that much. I didn't think it would either.
Well, it shouldn't cost Look, how hard is it to get some military equipment there, get some of the soldiers there? I mean, is it going to cost some money? Yeah, it'll cost some money. $92 million, maybe not. I doubt it. But even if it does cost $92 million, that's a drop in the bucket for the government. Look, I mean, we spend $64 billion with a B dollars on the Department of Education every year. $92 million for a parade is 0.1% of what we spend on that. That's just one department of one agency in the federal government. Tell me how we don't have, we can't just look through the couch cushions, find $92 million out of the government, and say, here, you know what? Let's celebrate our military and show the world actually what we have. So that way, maybe some might stop, bullying us and thinking that we're just a little too weak nowadays.
Well, not only that, but, what we spend on defense, we get a return on that investment. We don't get a return on what we spend on education.
Yeah, well, that's true. Now, right now, we don't at all. I appreciate that very much, John. Always good to talk to you, sir. And I don't know what was crackling on the phone line there. Almost sounded like you're on a vinyl record. Yeah, it's Sean from the Vinyl Records. I tell you what, vinyl's coming back, too. Have you seen that? My really hard, angry metal bands with the, the double bass, the loud stomping, the growling, and the screaming, they're coming out on vinyl as much as they are on CDs and on automatic internet downloads. Kind of interesting to see. 316-721-8255. Let's take a break. We'll wrap up the show today. We'll squeeze in maybe a call or two when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason here on a Friday, a free-for-all Friday here on KQAM.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker KQAM.
Imagine a world where the government didn't tell businesses how to do business. Maybe they didn't try and shut down lemonade stands for little children. Maybe they didn't try and tell you how you run your business, how to shut you down, how to control you. And then every time you start making more profits, and they're like, you kind of stepped up another threshold. You need to be paying higher tax rates. Kind of crazy. This portion of The Voice of Reason brought to you by the Inman Harvest Cafe. It's a Fried Chicken Friday, meaning that it's not only a Friday, it's not only a free-for-all Friday, but it is a Fried Chicken Friday, 112 South Main Street in downtown Inman, just north of Hutch. 620-585-6925. Give them a call. Check out their menu, InmanHarvestCafe.com. But today, you really don't need to check out the menu because today it is kind of a buffet style where you rock it. Right now, breakfast is going on. You have the lunch buffet from 11 to 1, the dinner buffet from 5 to 8 o'clock. Katie's on the line with us here, and you guys have the smorgasbord of Friday buffet goodies today, don't you?
Yeah. Good morning, Andy. Happy Fried Chicken Friday. We've got all kinds of good stuff going on today.
Yeah, you kind of do. And, the government not coming down on you guys, hopefully, not cracking the whip on you, right?
Well, let's talk about that because yesterday, it's funny that this is your topic of conversation because yesterday I got inspected by the fire marshal.
Oh, fun. Yay.
Yeah. And so now I have a nice long laundry list of things that I have to do to improve my building.
Sure.
To make it safer for my customers and my employees.
Sure.
Including, but not limited to, a map to show everyone how to get out of the building if there's a fire. So if there is a fire, we're going to all stop and look at the map.
Yes, we should all stop looking at because the big windows and the big doors are not signs enough.
Huge front windows are not evidently, yeah. And then I've been told that our back door opens the wrong way, the back door in the kitchen. Now, we do have a fire door in the dining room where the guests are, and that one opens correctly, but the one in the kitchen opens inward instead of outward, so we cannot use that as a fire exit. So listen to the logic of this. If my place actually catches on fire, we cannot go out the closest door.
No.
Because it opens the wrong way.
It opens the wrong way. You probably need, I don't know. Yeah. Welcome to the government for you right there. You probably need the fire extinguisher foam in the little sprinklers up ahead on the ceiling as well, so that way everybody can get foam. See, I'm sure that's one of the stipulations, right?
I have that. Okay. That's already in place because I had to do that 2 years ago. The insurance company made me put that in.
Oh, fun.
So I have that already, and so I'll have to get the properly lighted exit signs on all of my doorways. So I think I'm going to go around and put not an exit on all the doors that are clearly not an exit, just in case anyone gets confused.
Sure. Not an exit during fire time. Yes.
But let's just talk about chicken now because
that's all right. Well, like you said,
I'm getting upset.
God bless the federal government, I guess. There you are with those regulations. Yes, let's talk about some of the food. The fried chicken going on all day today. You got the lunch buffet 11 to 1, dinner buffet 5 to 8 o'clock, the free slice of pie we'll talk about later. But other than the fried chicken, other than the roast beast, what else you got for us today?
So today today we're going to have beef and cheese enchiladas, and that's got the homemade enchilada sauce, cheddar cheese. It's got it's 100% ground beef. There's no fillers or weird stuff in my food ever. So we've made them up, and they're smelling delicious in the oven right now. And then we're going to also have a cheddar cheese, chicken, and tater tot casserole. So that's got the cheddar cheese soup type stuff that we're making from scratch, and then chicken, and there's some vegetable-y, I don't know, probably corn, tomatoes.
Sure.
I don't know. We like to make stuff up and then put tater tots on top of that, and that one's going to be good. She's working on that right now. So those things, plus our roast beef that we always have every Friday evening on the buffet. And, I never talk about our salad bar. Did you know that we even have a salad bar?
You do have a salad bar. That's right. We haven't really talked about it, but you do have the salad bar, and it is quite delicious.
Yeah. Most of the vegetables on the salad bar this time of year are locally grown from gardens in the area. So our cucumbers, our peppers, our tomatoes, some onions locally grown. So that's really, what we're all about here.
Sure.
Pretty exciting. And then pie.
And then, of course,
pie makes everything better.
That is true.
It makes everybody feel better.
It's warm and cozy inside. The free slice of pie tonight, 5 to 8 o'clock. What kind of pies do you have on the slate for today?
Today we've got coconut cream, chocolate cream, peanut butter cream, Dutch apple, pumpkin, and custard, and then whatever mystery pie Nick likes to cook up.
I've still never had custard before.
Nick wants to know what Whitechapel is.
Whitechapel. Whitechapel. I'm thinking you're referring to the band, and it is not a band that is very mainstream. Let's put it that way.
Oh, okay. We'll have to. Can we Google it?
You can Google it, yes, and it is a very delightful band, and it is coming to Wichita in November, and I will be attending. But it's not one that would be many enjoyed by listeners on the radio.
I see.
Let's just put it that
regulation.
way.
Okay.
Yes, hashtag fake news on that one.
All right, good.
Yeah, so there you are. So very good. But I got to say, I've never had custard pie before, so I will have to try that here very soon.
It's delicious.
It is delicious. Inman Harvest Cafe, 112 South Main Street, downtown Inman, just north of Hutch. Give them a call, 620-585-6925. Katie, you guys enjoy. Have fun on a Fried Chicken Friday. We'll chat with you again next week.
All right, thanks, Andy. Talk to you later.
Always a good time there. Brought to you by the Inman Harvest Cafe. I don't know if you're aware or not, but I kind of like my food. The fact that two of the main sponsors here on the station and on the show is the Inman Harvest Cafe and Riverside Cafe. Just saying. Wrapping up on a Friday today. Appreciate it. We had some other calls. Sorry we didn't get to you today. Call in on Monday. We'll get to you then. Next week, we'll get back into general election time. We'll talk about some of the issues that will be addressed during the campaign trail. You know the candidates are going to talk about it. We'll see if that blue wave actually happens. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. This is The Voice of Reason. Everybody have a great weekend.